This presentation is about building a secure organization. In this presentation, we will discuss the basics of security. This is part of the SEC 110 class at Rockingham Community College. There are many obstacles to good computer security. The first obstacle is that security is very inconvenient. Imagine having passwords for different resources on your network, one password for your email, one password to log in, one password to get to your financial records, and so forth. Lots of passwords. You might have lots of layers to go through, lots of different logins. As it turns out, security can be very inconvenient for the user and also for the IT staff. Computers are also very, very powerful, especially when you consider the computers that we had about 10 years ago. Computers are so powerful that they can launch all sorts of attacks and do all sorts of things that can thwart the efforts of your IT security staff. Not only are your personal computers very powerful, but there are supercomputers that many hackers can compromise and use for attacks as well. Unfortunately, many computer users tend to be very unsophisticated. Now, of course, I'm talking to the users right now who are sophisticated and do know what they're doing, but in general, the majority of computer users don't really have a clue how to be secure and how to operate in a secure environment. For instance, there was a virus named the I Love You virus, and it was spread just simply by users passing it on to their friends voluntarily. So the virus itself didn't have to do a whole lot to propagate. The users did it for them. Many times, computers are set up with security just as an afterthought. It's too easy to set up your applications and your backgrounds and your music and all that kind of stuff. And think about security when all this is done and maybe someone to remind you that security is important. Security, once again, for most users tends to be an afterthought, and as a result, computers are easy to compromise. The fact that someone in China can possibly access your data from halfway around the world is an extremely important thing to take into account. You really need to go to great lengths because distance is not what it used to be. There is no such thing as a distance barrier when it comes to computer security. The bad guys, or what we call the black hats, they are really good at what they do. I mean, this is their business. This is their profession. This is how they make their money. So they spend their entire day becoming good at compromising you and your systems and your data, and considering it's usually just an afterthought for the normal user, they're really good at getting away with what they're getting away with. Computer security costs a lot of money. And for this reason, management tends to veto those line items for things such as extra firewalls, extra virus protection software, extra IT staff to help out. Because of the cost in computer security, many times it gets downshifted to a lower priority and you don't get what you need. Now bear in mind, the bad guys don't really need very highly sophisticated computers and equipment. Their PC is all they need. PC and an internet connection, and they essentially have everything they need. Their software in general, either they write it themselves or there's lots of attack software that you can download on the internet. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how you would build a secure organization and the steps you would take to do this. first thing you need to do is be realistic in evaluating risks and threats. Some threats are a direct result of the infrastructure model. For instance, if you've got a lot of laptops out in the field and they're communicating from remote locations, then you're going to have to consider things such as VPNs and secure connections. Organizations that don't have a bunch of laptops and mobile devices out there in the field don't have this to consider because they don't have the devices. So many times just the way your network is set up in the infrastructure is going to pose additional risks and threats. Sometimes the business itself adds additional risks and threats. For instance, if you are some sort of financial organization and you have credit card numbers on file or social security numbers on file, you're going to be at a far greater risk because many, many more people will attack you. If you just have a website that's got information on it, public domain information, freely available information, essentially nobody's going to care about your website except possibly to deface it. But as far as compromising your data, there's almost no risk there. There are many governments in the world, in fact more than 100, who have active programs to hack into other governmental websites and resources. If, for instance, they think that you have some sort of relevant information, you might also be a target. So these global threats can be very, very dangerous, even if you're not a governmental agency. Okay, so it's important that you are aware of common misconceptions in computer security. The first general misconception is that your company is not very important and therefore not subject to attacks. That, however, is untrue because a lot of hackers just want to get into your server and look around. It's just a challenge to compromise your server, and they just want to do it to see what they can see. It's kind of the because it's there mentality. Another reason hackers might compromise your server is they like to leave a mark. Sometimes they might want to put a picture or something. I remember the Rockingham County School website had a picture of Dolly Parton at one point on its main page. So a lot of times this is sort of the graffiti mentality where hackers just like to go in and leave a mark. Another real possibility is they don't really care about your server or the data on your server. They just want to use your server to mount an attack on another server, which is therefore going to mask their tracks or cover their tracks. The more servers that a hacker can go through to get to their real target, the less chance that they will be actually caught. And here's something we don't usually think about. But 65% of all attacks come internally. In other words, the people on your network, on your local network, are twice as likely to attack you as someone from external, someone out on the internet. And to thwart this, you can take prevention measures, but it's a lot easier to attack once you're inside the network. You might try doing background checks. You might try some sort of monitoring software. But it is a very real threat that employees on your network can compromise your resources. Sometimes management makes an incorrect decision, and they think that since IT is so good at setting up servers and routers and switches and stuff, that they're also really good at security. But security is a specialty within the IT field, and many times it is necessary for the IT professional to get special training to be able to handle the security risks. It is very, very important to provide ongoing security training for all IT professionals. Extremely important. Computer security changes almost on a daily basis, and the bad guys are certainly training themselves every day. So it's important that the IT professionals also get training in sometimes what we call ethical hacking or computer security basics or courses like that, which can be taken online or can be taken as a DVD, or you can go to a site and take them. If you're going to build a secure organization, you need to think outside of the box. For instance, how are you going to prevent someone from putting a USB drive into their computer, copying one of the company's secrets or secret documents to that USB drive, and taking it out on their lunch break? It's a very difficult threat to manage, and we always need to be thinking about such threats. How about all the MP3 files that people have on their computers or on their MP3 players or on their USB drives or as part of a CD or whatever? MP3 files may be innocuous in and of themselves, but there's a whole technology called steganography where you can hide documents within those documents. Another thing you will want to do is develop a culture of security. Now, many employees will resent this and rebel against this, but it's important that if you start the process, eventually they will give in and realize that security is part of the culture and they always need to be aware of it. A lot of times the operating system has tools to help you mitigate security risks. You don't always have to go out and hire an expert or buy third-party software. There's lots of stuff you can actually do to secure your data. For instance, all servers, all computers, even a laptop or a lot of PDAs, you can encrypt your data right there on the computer. So the computer is encrypted, has encrypted data, and then in order to unencrypt that, it takes a certain password or something. So there's already a lot of stuff built into the operating system, and this is going way back to NT4 and NT 3.51, and I believe even 98 and ME might have had some feeble attempt at it. But for sure, Windows 2000 was really good at this. You also want to set up monitoring software so you can see what's going on. For instance, you can set up some intrusion detection or prevention software that lets you know what kind of threats are existing on your network. You can set up something called a honeypot. You can do all sorts of things to figure out if threats are occurring on your computer. Now, this is kind of a touchy subject, but it's always a good idea to consider a third-party audit. Not that your IT staff is in any way incompetent. In fact, this is even for competent IT staff. But a lot of times a third-party audit can come in there and show you something that maybe you've missed simply because you're comfortable with the network and you just didn't think about it. Remember the basics. Changing account passwords on a regular basis, which people obviously hate, but it's a really good move. Using strong passwords or requiring strong passwords, such as a minimum number of lengths and maybe special characters, maybe numerals, maybe caps and uncaps. And as the network admin, you want to close unnecessary ports on your computer. There really aren't that many that you need by default. And the last thing you got to remember is to keep your systems patched. If you let them update automatically or you run the updates yourself, then there is a much less chance that you will be compromised because the patches keep you up to date and kind of keep you at least on level with the attackers. So anyway, that's it on the basics of building a secure organization. Thank you very much.